and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the podcast where we speak to mavericks across the comedy world. Now, today's guest is someone that I've known, I think, for around 10 years. I would say so, around 10 years. Or 8 years. Yeah, 9, 10 years. He's an absolute brilliant comic. Been shared the stage with him many times. He is a man who is recently gone out to change the Edinburgh Fringe to make it affordable for all. And he's a man who, I've shared the stage with many times. He's a brilliant comic. He's been gigging for over 10 years with many stories to share, just like I have. Please welcome the scintillating, the tantalising, the invigorating, the mesmerising Tom Mayhew.
Oh, I mean, every single one of those quotes is going on a poster.
Okay.
Do you know what, Marvin? I've never been called tantalising before in my life, but I'll take it.
Yes, do take it. Do take it. Like just say if you're meeting someone in Edinburgh Street, listen here, Sonny Jim. I'm tantalising. I'm mesmerising. Watch the show.
Well, it's not a bad flowering technique. They'll remember you, right? If you did that.
Yes. But I think could it be like what Kate Copstick does? Because she's such a well-known reviewer. If she gives a bad review, some people may come just to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, Edinburgh, there's definitely that thing where if something is dreadful, people are fascinated by it, aren't they? They're kind of so bad it's good kind of thing. I don't remember many recent examples. My head always goes back to the what's it called, like Jimmy Savile the musical or something like that.
Whoa.
And that was notorious for being not very well reviewed and people kind of going along because it was a bit of a train wreck. I can't. There's always at least one though, but I can't always remember what they'd be called. But that's one I always remember.
Oh my god! Did you see it?
No, I didn't. No, well, I get wanting to watch something so bad it's good, or wanting to just see something that's kind of, known for being not good, but it always feels a bit mean-spirited, and I'm always more like, I'd like to see something that I hope is going to be good. The idea of going to see something knowing it's rubbish, or knowing it's not going to be great, I just think it feels a bit, it's not nice to a fellow performer, right? Because everyone's learning, everyone's trying to get better, so I tend to avoid stuff like that. I'm sure there was something like, was it called the P. Diddy party or something like that? There was something like that a couple of years ago as well, and similarly it was quite notorious for being bad, and I think the poster was, for some reason, P. Diddy was snogging Vladimir Putin or something weird like that, and you just kind of go, right, okay, I kind of know what this is going to be.
I think, is it a good or bad thing that some people get so desperate in Edinburgh to get an audience that they have their sense of shame or just goes out the window?
I mean, it's probably a bad thing, but then also, I guess it is the joy of art and the joy of living in a country where there is, a decent amount of free speech. It means people can do that, because you think in other countries there's so much stuff that might be shut down, and it's kind of, I guess, a good thing for Edinburgh that something like that can be put on, even though it's inevitably going to just be really controversial. But who's to say? That's the thing. When Edinburgh puts it in the programme, they don't know what it's going to be, right? They can't vouch for everything. So I think that's it's good. It's kind of open access for that reason, because it could be called, P. Diddy's funeral or whatever, and be exceptional. I don't really know. Yeah,
that's true. Edinburgh Fringe is probably one of the biggest controversial talking points within the UK comedy industry. But for me as a whole, there's still a lot of people that go there, and there's still a good audience. And if you want to build an audience and get people to follow your work, it's still good for that. But in terms of like getting a 5-star review or getting an award or stuff like that, I mean, I know a few comics have achieved that, but going in for that for £10,000, bloody hell, you're really like going in for like a one in a few hundred or 1 in 1,000 shot there.
Yeah, the odds are stacked against you, but I think the thing about it is, it's still the best place to work on a show. It's still the best place to find an audience, because the number of people who are there to watch comedy is so much higher than we'd ever get running our own gigs. So you just kind of, I get why everyone keeps coming back. I've definitely, I feel like it's about using Edinburgh for what you want it to be, I think, and not trying to get too carried away with the sort of rat race and chasing awards or chasing sellouts or whatever, because there's some people who could sell out a whole run and still not be happy with their show. And I think it's about just making sure you are happy with your work and enjoying what you do.
But you've been doing the Fringe, I think, for over 10 years, right? And you've maybe done about 8 or 9 shows. Would I be right in saying that?
I mean, it depends how you define shows. Because in terms of like solo shows, I've done 4, but I've also sort of run some compilation shows, or I've helped organise some other shows, or done a 2-hander. So I've probably done 8 or 9 shows over that time. Yeah.
But since you've been going over there and all that, and that would be maybe 2016 or 2015 since you.
2015 was the first year I went out for the whole month.
Okay, so since 2015, what would you say were your expectations going into the Fringe, and now what are your expectations going into the Fringe, and like how has it all changed, and how has your approach to the behemoth, if I'm saying it correctly, of the Fringe changed?
You have smashed that. Yeah, that was perfect. Well done. And yeah, it's that. Round of applause for Marvin, everybody. Come on. I think when you first go, you kind of want to make a name for yourself. You want to sort of get something from the industry. You kind of want to put your stamp on it and kind of feel like you're building your profile. And I think you do come back to that eventually. But at the moment, definitely the last sort of 3 times I've gone, I've been sort of more thinking about just artistic development and thinking what I want to do and what I want to use it for. Because I did like a panel show last year. I'm doing a whip this year, like a work in progress show. And I think that's just me going, I don't believe you need to do a new hour every year. I'd rather spend time working on something and then come back with a new hour which is really different and actually shows development, instead of just rushing back and going, it's more of the same.
So when did you learn that lesson, would you say?
Probably 2023, when part of, like, I did a show on the Free Fringe and it didn't go great, and I kind of was just using it just to sort of experiment and try and make some money and to try and just have some fun. And I still found myself a bit frustrated about it not going really well, even though I was just trying to use it as a loose kind of muck around thing. But after that, I was like, right, okay, well, I don't need to bring back a show until it feels ready and I feel ready, and I want to, properly push it and promote it and sort of present something that makes people go, oh, he's really stepped it up. Because I don't see the point in, as I said, going back each year and people going, oh, it was like his last one. I think you want to be like a Pokemon that's leveled up. You want to be, I was Charmander, now I'm Charizard. You don't want to just go, it's a slightly stronger Charmander, but it's still a Charmander. I think you want to, make people go, oh, I've never seen that before.
And you feel that 2 years is adequate. Well, what works for you is to take 2 years out for each show.
No.
And
this show will be. I'm aiming to do. I'm doing a whip this year. I'm aiming to do a show next year, so that'd be, I think, 3 years since my most recent sort of hour. But I'm pretty content with that because I've just been working on my own stuff and writing and thinking about what I want the show to be. And so I don't think there's any sort of rules either way, really, because I could do this show next year and then do another show in 2028. It all depends on how the show goes, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the show goes brilliantly, you might go, oh, I'll just do another show next year. If the show goes okay, you might go, okay, well, I might take another year off. And it depends on your personal circumstances as well. I think we forget as creatives that sometimes your personal life can impact your creativity, because I went for a breakup in 2024, and so 2025 was just sort of a write-off. I wasn't going to make a new show then. I didn't feel like it, and I think it was a very mature decision to make that decision. And industry people might go, "Oh, but you've got to do this, and you have to make a show about your breakup." And I was just like, "No, I don't care. I don't want to do that. I didn't feel like doing it." And it depends on other stuff, like whether you've got money coming in from a day job or something that's helping you fund it, whether you can have the right team behind you. So I'm just, I think when people say, what do you think is essential for creating the show? It's making sure you just do what's right for you and making sure you're patient with it, because there's nothing worse than rushing a good idea.
And so you've been going up and down in the Fringe, how has your approach to producing a show changed? Because the Edinburgh Fringe has changed a lot as well, hasn't it? I mean, there's so many people coming. There's Hoots Fringe coming in now. There's obviously PVH, Laughing Horse, and all the paid fringes, but the prices keep going up, and audiences now come in on a weekend. There's all sorts of. I mean, you've been there since 2015. You've seen all the changes. How did you adjust your approach through all those years?
I feel like it's good to experiment and try different stuff. Because in that time, I've done shows with Laughing Horse, I've done shows with Just a Tonic, I've done shows with The Stand, and I'm doing Hoots this year. And so that's, 4 different venues over that time period. And I do think it's worth being open to trying new stuff and different stuff and seeing what works, because I think a lot of people get stuck in sort of sticking with the first promoter who gave them a show or whatever like that. And obviously a lot of it does come down to money and stuff. And I think Laughing Horse is a really good sort of promoter for that reason, and PBH as well. But I do feel like what I've tried to do in terms of my approach is just be very open to doing things differently and thinking outside the box, and not sort of relying on what worked last time. Like every time going, right, what can I do differently? What's going to make this sort of stand out? Because that's the thing. If you do something well one time, it's always going to be diluted the next time because you did it last year. So I think it's always about being alert and taking risks.
Okay. And what would you say is the thing that keeps you going back to the Fringe, despite all of its well-known drawbacks? What is it that makes you go back to the Fringe and say, right, baby, you've done a lot of harm to me, but me and you were married? Edinburgh Fringe.
I don't think I've ever said that to anyone or anything, Marvin. Right, baby, I've done a lot of harm to you, but me and you, we marry. I mean,
Edinburgh Fringe is like a marriage with a lot of comics, isn't it? Because people go up there year on, year out, and it's something that I want to do more often. But I mean, it is. What makes you keep going back to the lovely Edinburgh Fringe?
Probably the fact that, as I said, I'm making it work for me. So, literally, the past sort of 5 fringes I've been to, I've made money in 4 of them. And so that's one thing. It's like I've made it work to make money there, which is also a very important thing to do at the Fringe. And also just it is still the best place to have an audience who will come to your shows. Like there's nowhere else where I'd be able to get, 1,000 people over a month to come see a show. Like it just doesn't, do you know what I mean? It doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's just, I'm someone, I've always loved the idea of making shows. I've always thought that's what I wanted to strive towards. And so if you want to do that, you kind of have to go there, right?
But you still do the clubs quite a bit as well. But there's a thing that a lot of people say nowadays, and they say you're either a club comedian or you're a circuit comedian.
I think that's utter nonsense. Do you know what I mean? I think most most people have to be both to make ends meet, to be honest, because literally, like, unless you're Josh Widdicombe or something, even if you're touring, it still is not easy to make a lot of money from. So I think most people do have to be both, and the different skills that you have to learn and different techniques, and there is some crossover. Some routines might work in both places, but other routines definitely won't.
Okay. And you've recently, I think, in the last couple of years or the last year, you joined a fantastic organisation which is it's a bit like making the Edinburgh Fringe affordable for the best in class. What made you decide to become part of that lovely organisation set up by, I believe, Cheyenne Davies, right? Or Davis?
Sean Davis. Sean
Cheyenne
Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, she set it up, and basically, I think it's a really important organisation because it makes the arts more accessible, which we all know that's massively, it's massively inaccessible because things at Edinburgh is really expensive, and there's loads of people who are priced out of it. And I think what shows why it's important is that this year there's a guy called Johnny Brook, and I think it was his sixth time applying, and he got it because he's kept getting better, he's kept improving, he's kept sharpening his act and improving as a performer, and so this year he got it, and it does mean that he'll be going to Edinburgh, and he's never been to Edinburgh before, and without Best in Class, he probably never would, and it's a shame that there's people from working class backgrounds who otherwise, without it, would just never be there, and they're sort of really important voices who deserve that platform and they deserve that experience, and it's ultimately about trying to help those people, and especially now when there's less funding from things like Keep It Fringe this year and stuff like that. I just think it's important to still have something that is giving those people a platform, but also encouraging them and letting them know that there is a place for them and there's space for them and there is room for them in the industry, because otherwise there's not much saying that.
And I think there was I think I mentioned this with Peter Buckley Hill, that it limits the kind of audience we get in with the Cost of the Fringe and all that, but it also limits the kind of performers. And it's you don't want to see the same type of comedian or the same type of act. If by making it as accessible as possible, you're going to get a wider range of different ways of looking at things. If it's just, and that's what great thing about Best in Class. But one thing I also want to say is I think there's also a talk in comedy industry itself, and I think you mentioned it earlier, that is there a class issue in comedy, or is there perception that people have on comedy?
There's a huge class issue in society and in the arts in general, not just comedy, but everywhere across the board. There is a massive class issue, I think, in terms of representation, in terms of people we're seeing on our screens sort of representing a wide variety. I still don't think that is anywhere near sort of representative of society. It's like things like the House of Commons that's full of people from Oxford and Cambridge, and really a lot of the media is very similar. It's people from those backgrounds who are kind of privately educated and have had a lot of support and encouragement from the parents, and have had a lot of advantages, and it does mean that it's less likely that you'll see someone from a working class background on Live with the Apollo, or presenting the news, or being a TV presenter. Genuinely, I think the easiest way for a working class person to be a TV presenter is probably to be a professional footballer and then transition into being a TV presenter. I don't think it's massively easy otherwise.
Have you seen anything in regards to entertainment that you think, like, how do you see things going on in the next 10 years? Do you see things getting better or harder?
You'd like to hope it would get better. I think you have to have hope. You have to try and be part of the positive change and try and be part of things improving and try and fight towards things improving, because otherwise what we're doing with our lives. Like, so I think you do need to have a bit of hope it will get better. Whether it will or not, I always just feel like, well, I'm not in charge, so unless you put me in charge or someone like me in charge who actively puts things in place to improve it, it's not gonna get better. And I think the issue is that it's so kind of entrenched now that people from certain backgrounds feel like they deserve these positions, or they deserve to be seen as, in high ranking roles on TV or whatever, that now I feel like if you tried to put something in place to address the balance, those people would kick off the people who are already there. And that's when it's really hard to make the change, because we can't press a button and reset and go back to normal. We can't just go, actually, let's not have Michael Portillo presenting the travel show. Let's get someone else because he's got the travel show. And so it's tricky. It's difficult. But I'd like to think we can make small changes that help. And I think we already do that. So.
And I'm not too sure if this is true or not, but did you write an article a while ago about saying that you're working class, or that you grew up working class, but people are surprised to hear that you're working class? I heard somewhere, or I saw an article somewhere that you wrote, and it got me thinking about something, because there's a Jewish comedian called Mel Moon, and there is a bit of issues regarding the Jewish community, and that she doesn't look Jewish or come across as Jewish. She's quite quietly that, but she says she's found out a lot of what people think of the Jewish community because she doesn't look Jewish, and she gets shocked. But do you get that as well? Like, do people, because they assume you're a certain type because of the way you look or the way you behave, and then they say all these poor. Have you heard anything that's like, oh my God, what are you on about, mate?
Yeah, sometimes, definitely. I think it's inevitable that people will kind of express bigotry occasionally. I think, like, definitely, if you maybe less so in comedy, partly because of how I dress in comedy. I usually have a hoodie and tracksuit bottoms on, so I feel like I make it very clear what my background is through that. So they'd be very stupid if they're trying to pick an argument with me over something like that, because I'll tear them a new arsehole, frankly. Can I swear on this? I've just sworn.
Yes.
Sorry, Marvin.
As much as you want. You can F and blind, you can
Oh,
I'm gonna racist though.
I'm going to F and blind. F and blind. F and blind. There we go. But yeah, there's always people who will have, bigotry, or they will have it, say things like that. But you get that through all walks of life. Like, you get that when you're, helping people who are in your community, or when you're going to the post office, you might hear someone like that. And I feel like it's just always just about educating people and trying to challenge harmful narratives.
Have you how have you dealt with that in terms of outside of it? You don't have to, if you don't want to say it, no worries.
I mean, you just kind of make people think of things from a different perspective, and you try and make them think about it and challenge where they're coming from. And if after 5 minutes you're not getting anywhere, you kind of just have to let it go, because not everyone's going to. People hate to change their mind. They hate to admit they're wrong because they feel like you're changing the entire fabric of their personality or something. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like you just try a bit, and if they don't react, you just go, okay, cool. I know what you're like. That's fine.
I think it stems to something that Simon Evans says, and he says, as a comedian, audiences will love you if you make them feel clever, but they may never forgive you if you make them feel stupid.
Yeah, but I think you can. I kind of feel like you can do both. I think you can make an audience feel clever, but also change their mind about some things. It's just making sure you do it in a tactile way and not literally shouting out "you're stupid" at them, because they won't like that.
Who's a comedian? I mean, who's a comedian that you admire for doing that?
I think someone like Laura Davis. I think they're very good. I think there's lots of stuff in their shows where it kind of there are bits where that are kind of universal truths, and then there's bits that are a bit more challenging. And I mean, a lot of their stuff I just would already be on board with anyway, because I'm just similarly politically aligned and angry. But I think it's very just sort of cleverly done how there'll be some things where you're kind of on board with it, and then the next bit is like a step up, and it's still sort of just reinforcing that point, but it's a bit more challenging and makes you kind of go, oh, you said that. And so I think they're very good at that.
Laura Davies.
Yeah.
Is there one bit in mind that stands out to you in particular? Because I hear this a lot from other comics. When they really like a comic, they often remember one particular bit that really stands out to them.
I rarely remember bits. I kind of remember how I feel during the show, and that's what more I'm thinking with Laura's work. It's just how I feel when I'm watching a whole hour at Edinburgh or something like that. So I don't know if there's necessarily a bit, but there's clearly a lot of thought that goes into a structure of a show that all kind of interplays with it, and things overlay, and there's little twists, and it's just very well put together. I think there's a full show on YouTube.
Do you believe in what Martin Davis says, that there's a lot of comics that say, oh, you can't say, not a lot of comics, but the Comedy Unleashed lot, they say that you can't say what you want anymore. But then the counter argument that, look at Jimmy Carr, look at Frankie Boyle, they say what they want. It's like, in a way, is it you got to sell the material?
I think you could joke about whatever you want as long as the joke's strong enough. I just think the issue with it is that not enough people write strong jokes, and they want to get by on just saying something offensive and presenting that as a joke, and then going, oh, you won't let me say that, and you go, yeah, because there's no punchline, you're just being offensive. And some people do laugh when something's shocking. It doesn't mean it's funny, it means they're reacting. It doesn't mean it's a funny joke.
I mean, yes, they're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I think everyone does that. Sometimes you laugh at something just because you're really shocked that someone said it. And it's not necessarily because you're finding it funny. It's literally just a reaction because you're really shocked. It's not, you're not approving necessarily. And I feel like people confuse that reaction with them saying something hilarious when it's not. It's just basic.
Yeah. What's the worst thing you've seen with that? Ha 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 ha.
It's the worst thing I've seen of that. Just, I don't know, it's just that kind of the open mic thing where you might see, a young male comedian make a rape joke or something, and people just laugh because it's really shocking and surprising, but also then the audience are dead for the rest of that person's set. And then you go, yeah, that laugh there was because they were shocked and couldn't believe you'd said it. And the following silence for the next 2 minutes was because they didn't approve of that joke. That's how it works. So I think just anyone who lazily throws in a edgy topic just to look like they're cool, when it's just like, no, you're just boring, man. You're just really boring.
And annoying.
Oh, they're going to hate me if they watch this.
It's all right. I got a few people that, I mean, your haters are your lovers. They'll give you a view, or if they're watching, that it's a good thing, no?
No, yeah, there's no such thing as bad press. That's what they say, right?
Unless you're Russell Brand. No.
No, yeah, that's quite okay. There is such thing as bad press. I guess there is, but hey, you never can judge what or predict what an audience will say, right?
No. I mean, I've seen some shocking things. I think I remember Joe Grant a while ago told me that someone pissed into a bottle.
Wait, after the show or just on stage?
On stage.
What?
In the Hideaway comedy gig, someone went and did that. I wish I'd seen it because that'd be brilliant. And I remember...
Don't tell them it'd be brilliant. That's why they do this, because you go, that would be brilliant.
Okay, well, it would have been funny for me. And then I remember in the Comedy Store Gong Show, I think someone put a condom on their head. and they two signs went up, but they wanted him to put it full on his head, and then when he did, they gonged him off.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
But I mean, you yourself, I mean, you did very well in the Gong Show. You won it, and that clip of yours got 10,000 views, and you came in, you watched it, I remember, and you said, "Could I go up?" And then you just completely destroyed it.
Yeah, that clip did incredibly well. I don't entirely know why. It's always strange with the internet. Some things seem to blow up, don't they? And other things seem to stay a bit quieter. But yeah, that was a very nice gig. It's always a good gig to play. And I think I probably it's a little tactic I've learned from other comedians. They say a good thing to do at a Gong show is to go, and then if you go up from the audience and if it's after someone's not done very well, it kind of helps you a bit. So I think that definitely helped me a bit. You kind of, as soon as I had 3 jokes that were jokes, I was following someone who had no jokes. So you already just look much better, you know what I mean?
And you do the show, the store like once a year, right, or every 6 months?
Probably once a year, yeah.
And what's it like when you go up there and you see all your heroes, you see Robin Williams on the wall, and you go in that green room?
I just wish I was on the wall. I think genuine. Do you ever just kind of go, you look at those walls at different places and you just go, then that's when I would have made it if I've got my picture up on the wall somewhere. I don't know why. It just feels like that's like a hall of fame of the Comedy Store or of Soho Theatre or whatever. You just,
Yeah.
it's lovely to do these things, but you just go, I want to be one of the wall comedians. They're the really cool ones. Like, you could just put up your own photo, I suppose. Maybe I'll do that in future.
But I mean, there's so much going on in comedy. Like the Top Secret Comedy Club has turned into a monster. Then you got Hot Water Comedy Club, Angel Comedy Club. What 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 would you say? How does the Comedy Store compare to those sort of rooms? Or
I mean, it's busy. It's probably bigger than them in terms of, it's 400 seats. I think maybe that's puts it as the biggest, and it's one that people always get nervous by. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you can't ever not be nervous about playing the Comedy Store because of the reputation and because of the fact that there's 400 people there. So if you don't do well, you kind of have to go, no, that's fair. Like, you can't really excuse it at a club like that. So I think there's a different kind of pressure there. But at the same time, it means that it can be a good place to play because you've got that many people there. And so if it goes well, you can ride the wave. Do you know what I mean?
I do feel that it's better than the LA one because I've been to both, and the LA one you buy 2 drinks and a meal, and the Comedy UK one you don't. But they're serving food right during the show, and it was so disjointed. They had no host, and it was just acts coming one after the other. And
Oh, God.
yeah, the guy just normally does a 5 minute bit, and that's it. And he just introduces the acts. He doesn't do any emceeing at all. And I just feel that the UK model of running gigs where they have a host and they have all the acts is just, yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's how it should be done. If a comedian does badly, you need someone to sweep up the blood, man.
Yeah, you do. Especially if there's literal blood, definitely. Then they've done really badly if that's happened.
And I think that used to happen a while ago, 20 or 30 years ago, with Malcolm Hardy, with the glass. I heard that they had to change it to plastic to stop people throwing glasses at Malcolm Hardy.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it the Comedy Store that Jim Jeffries was punched on famously?
Yes, it was the Manchester one.
I don't know whether there was blood there, but that's probably the closest we've come, I'd say.
But it gives a good viral clip. I mean, it helped Jim Jeffries a lot. It also helped James Loveridge a bit. It also helped. These heckle clips seem to do quite well.
Do you know what, mate? It says a lot about how, desperate a lot of comedians are to make it, that lots of us do think, oh, I'd love to be punched on stage. As long as it's filmed, that's going to get like 1 million hits. That's all you need. That'll get more hits than any joke I've ever written.
I do, yeah, but come on, Tom. Let's not be prejudiced. Not all comedians. Just
No?
some.
Would you want to be punched on stage, Marvin? If it was filmed?
Depends how bad the gig went.
In a really nice club, if it's,
Well, I mean, I dress up as Zorro, so that would be quite an entertaining. So I don't know. I mean,
I mean, your Zorro costume is great, though. I didn't recognise you when I saw you wearing it in Edinburgh. Literally, I thought it was the real life Zorro. So that's how good it is. So,
well, the thing that I like about the costume is that during the Fringe, I can just go about my day and avoid people. Whilst, if I was just a regular act, people, if they've seen the show, would see me. But if I dress in a costume, a lot of people don't recognise me without the costume. I mean, a lot of people I know have on occasion, but as you said, even yourself didn't recognise me. But most people don't, so I can separate it. Like Ada Camp made a good point. If you're a character act, once you're off stage, you can go about your day.
yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. It's something to be said for wearing a disguise on stage.
Would you, Tom, ever change your hair a bit, or you change your look on stage, and then so that they don't recognise you off stage?
I mean, let's not rule it out. I think you always have to consider things. It could be, the future of my act, me playing a character. Maybe I'll play, if you're Zorro, maybe I'll be Puss in Boots.
Okay, why not? What would be their name? The White Puss in Boots.
Yeah, there we go. The White Puss in Boots. But I think tickets are flying out the door.
It was an interesting experience doing the Fringe in 2023, but it was a big mistake. I should have done something else. I think I will take another show up to Edinburgh, but it'll probably be in a couple of years. And it'll probably be about Asian Zorro being an idiot, or being a failed Zorro. Like Asian Zorro has failed being Zorro because
I'd like that. That's funny, yeah.
Because he's not Mexican.
But you know what? I think it is important that people do say, I went up to the Fringe and it failed, or it didn't go well, because I've probably done maybe 4 solo shows, and I'd be like, 2 of them went well, 2 of them I don't think did. And I think it's really important to say that, because everyone always thinks that other people are just smashing it all the time, whereas it's such an inconsistent beast, the Edinburgh Fringe, and the number of people who have great show after great show after great show is tiny in the grand scheme of things.
But are they ones that have likely built their own audience already? Like Jerry Sadowitz has a good show, but I went for the experience rather than him being funny.
I mean, it helps if you have your own audience. It kind of I always think it takes the pressure off, right? Because they'll be happy whatever you do.
Yeah, you could do a fart in a wind. I remember that with Adam Rowe. He had all of his audience in, and I found it okay, but I didn't find it hilarious. And I think I also fell asleep through part of it because I was really tired.
Wow.
No, he didn't see me. I went like this, and I didn't. I hid it a bit.
Well, I mean, it's the thing is, if you're not someone's audience, you can't change that. Do you know what I mean? In the room, you can't sort of help it, and it's just about him trying to have less Marvins, and you trying to see less Adam Rose, I suppose. I
suppose so. And it's about me seeing more of Dan Tiernan, who was incredible in 2023. And I keep banging on about it in the podcast, but in the last 3 years, the best thing I've seen is Dan Tiernan's Stomp show. It was just incredible. He's an incredible act, Dan Tiernan. You're brilliant as well. But he's incredible. What I like about him, he's got the look, he's got the voice, and it's just. Yeah, it's brilliant. A bit bonkers as well. I don't know. He seems to hit on a lot of creep a lot of men in the crowd in the front row, but he does it in a very funny way, and he does shouting or something. And yeah, he's just brilliant.
He's done very well, hasn't he? I think was he nominated last year for best show? I think, or the year before, maybe. But yeah, he's blown up. He's done really well, and I think like it makes sense if you're someone like that who can write a show every year. I think go back every year, because if you've got the audience and you're making money and you can produce the material, then do it. Why would you not do it? But I also think if you're still trying to work out the audience stuff and still trying to grow and work on your own performance, there's no sort of shame in taking a year or 2 years out or whatever you need out, because if you do one show that gets 3 stars and then you come back 5 years later and that show gets 5 stars, no one's going to care there was 5 years there. They're going to go, that show was brilliant. It doesn't really matter what the gap is. Like same with people releasing albums. Like, no one's going to go, oh, that was a great album by Adele. Oh, but it took her 5 years. It's like no one cares. They care about the final product. So I think that's always important to remember with Edinburgh shows.
But that's an interesting thing, because when people get envious of famous people that have really made it there, you don't know how to stroke what they've done to get there, and you don't know what it's like to live as them. Because I imagine if you're a famous comedian, like for myself, if I get dodgy comments, some of the things that people say online can be a bit annoying, but for them, they're getting thousands of weird comments and all sorts of dodgy things, like getting bothered in the street with selfies. I don't know about you, Tom, but if I'm with my family or if I'm in the toilet and someone asks for a selfie, I'm not gonna tell them to fuck off. Would probably be an appropriate thing. I mean,
no, I would only give someone a selfie in the toilet. That's the only place.
Well, you want to make an impression, don't you?
Yeah, I want it to be a memorable visit for them. So I think that's the only place I would do it. Everywhere else, I'd go, no, I'm not in the toilet. Sorry.
But it must. I mean, we both know comedians who have reached more or less the pinnacle of comedy, and what must it be like for them? And also, they've got to be, as they have such a big name, if they're caught being rude or being this and that, it damages them a lot more than if me or you did it.
Mm. Yeah, there is definitely. I don't think I'd ever want to be uber famous. I don't think that's something that most people strive for, unless you're a certain type of act. But I feel like it's very rare that kind of an act who's a bit more alternative or a bit less kind of commercial would reach those levels, isn't it? Like usually you have to be such a you have to sort of play the game a lot and be very just a bit more calculated about it. And I feel like we are people who prefer a bit of chaos. And I don't think there's much room for chaos on the top level, really.
It's too much of a risk for them.
Yeah, I think they play it a bit safe, which is a shame, because I think a lot of comedy gets lost because people want to play stuff a bit safe. Producers or commissioning people. It is a shame. There's no sort of platform for like strange alternative comedians out there at the moment in terms of like TV, apart from Taskmaster. But then there might be one comedian who's a bit alternative who gets on there a year. Do you know what I mean? Like that's they'll go, here's John Kearns or here's Phil Ellis, but really it's very rare that someone kind of breaks through.
I heard that Taskmaster has become more like the making of a lot of comics, more so than like Live at the Apollo.
Oh, it's massive, and it's massive worldwide. And I think it's the beauty of Taskmaster as a TV show is that it's timeless. Like you can be on Taskmaster and be funny, and it's still going to be accessible and relevant 10 years later. Whereas sometimes, someone might go on Live at the Apollo and they'll do a routine about Gogglebox or about, X Factor or something, and very quickly those things can become irrelevant, and so it doesn't have the same sort of staying power. So I think the joy of Taskmaster is it's just comedians being themselves, being funny, and because it's sort of getting much bigger worldwide, it means they get audiences that you wouldn't get for Live at the Apollo. So definitely Taskmaster's the And plus, Taskmaster, you're on 10 episodes. It's not just one episode. You're on 10 episodes, so obviously you're going to have more people seeing it.
Oh, I did not know that. And I've never even seen Taskmaster. What does it do? What's it about? How is it different to like Mock the Week? I'm sorry, Tom.
How have you not seen Taskmaster?
I know about it. I've seen clips of it, but I've not really like watched the full episode.
Right, Marvin. Your homework after today is to watch a whole series of Taskmaster.
I'll watch a couple of episodes.
I want you to go on Wikipedia, find a series that has a number of names that you really like, pick that, and I want you to just sit down, press play, and just watch it, because you need to know what this is. It's just comedians being set tasks, and they do it in funny, silly ways. But I worry, because what if tomorrow someone approaches you and goes, "Hey Marvin, I work for Channel 4. I want to put you on Taskmaster," and you go, "Oh, I've not seen it." You might miss that shot.
Well, it could be brilliant if I don't know what I'm doing, and it could be.
Possibly, but I feel it would be better for you to have at least seen a few episodes in case that happens.
But what makes it such a big thing now, as opposed to like, how does it compare with like shows like Mock the Week or 8 out of 10 Cats and those previous sort of big panel show games?
Well, because it's not as much about people sat down in a panel. You know, there's a lot of cutaway footage, which is people sort of doing tasks and trying to basically do something silly like melt this ice cube as quickly as you can, or find this rubber duck and put it in the cage upstairs or whatever. It's trying to do stuff in inventive ways, and because comedians inherently think in things in quite inventive, weird ways, it's often funny to see them try things, or it's just funny to see them be forced to eat baby food. Do you know what I mean? There's just a weird stuff like that, which is just enjoyable in a very silly sense. Whereas things like Mock the Week, 8 out of 10 Cats, again, they have a thing where they're dated very quickly. Because they're so topical. That's both the selling point, but also the downfall. Like I remember Mock the Week. Like, I swear the first 8 series, a lot of the time, Hugh Dennis would do a thing where he'd do an impression of Jimmy Savile and say something about Shawaddy Waddy, and in my head I'm like, cool, I imagine every episode of that is out of circulation now, just because it just looks so weird to have that there, like, and it won't make sense. You don't want to sit down and watch an episode of Mock the Week where they're talking about how do you think Gordon Brown's doing as Prime Minister. Why would you sit and watch that? Like, so it just is more fresh and more just people trying to do stuff in either weird or funny ways, and it's just more about sort of observing like the human condition, and I think that's what makes it exciting.
And what was the point that it got big? Because I've only heard about it recently.
I mean, probably when it moved, it was already big on Dave, but when it went from Dave to Channel 4, it got much bigger. And that was probably 2019, 2020, possibly.
Okay. So yeah, to comedians, it's don't go on Taskmaster, not live at the Apollo.
I mean, ideally you do both. You know, I imagine most comedians who would either do live at the Apollo before Taskmaster, or if you do Taskmaster first, you're then big enough to do live at the Apollo. So, you know, I'd be very surprised. I wonder what these stats are. If anyone who's a big fan of stats, comment below, let us know how many people do both, because I reckon a lot of people probably do both, right?
Ian Lane.
Ian Lane. Oh, for the stat, I thought you were saying Ian Lane had done both, and I was like, wow, I bet he smashed it live at the Apollo.
For the stats.
Ian Lane, I don't know if he does comedy anymore, but he was a wonderful comedian.
He was, and he is, and he did a lovely stats on the the Edinburgh Fringe last year, which I love.
He did a show called Aloof at the Fringe, and it was very good. Come back, Ian Lane, if you're watching. I don't know if you are.
Come back for good, Ian Lane. And he lives in southwest London, so I could probably tell him to come back.
Book him for a gig.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I do have at the moment. What I do have, so that gig in Mains Park. Oh yeah, I messaged you about it, but that shut down because the person who owned it and who they rented it from, they couldn't afford the fee anymore. Something along those lines. And then, and now what I do is I run a Bring Your Own Booze comedy show in Wimbledon Library. That's all I got at the moment. But yeah,
Oh, I love a gig in the library, though.
it's not too bad. The first one actually did quite well, and it really surprised me. Yeah, people up for a fun day out. I tried it in Mitcham, and it did terribly because, well, it's in a rough area, and some comedians were scared of it because it has those sort of. Once someone has a Staffordshire Bull Terrier in a rough area and they're dressed a certain way, act a certain way, you get certain assumptions.
Mm.
And it was one of those sort of areas. But yeah, the night that I run in my own area seems to be doing okay so far. But I haven't. I don't always like comedians. I don't like audience members. But the people that I dislike the most in all of comedy are the venues. I absolutely despise them. Comedians, people have got. They are what they are. But once you're in it a while, you understand them a bit. But venues, they're right pain in the backside. They give shitty deals and they always try and. Most of them are shit, and you have to try your luck and really willing to fail with a lot of venues before you find a good one. Like my good night in Wimbledon Park, I had to go 5 or 6 before I found that one. And this year and last year, I've had to go 3 or 4 different ones, and then I found this Wimbledon Library. So being a comedy promoter is a pain in the neck, but it's the fun shows make it worthwhile. And there's a lot of mad characters in the promotion game as well. You got Alfie Noakes. Well, oh shit! I should not mention his name. Shit, he'll probably listen to this.
Good old Alfie. I always liked Alfie.
But
I know some people hated him, but I thought he was all right.
no, he did a lot for the comedy community. But
you know what? I think not just focusing in on one person because I don't think that's massively fair. But generally, I would say promoters. I think anyone who has organised over 100 gigs just for the sake of comedians and audience, I always have like a respect for that because I'm like, you're someone who've made something happen. Do you know what I mean? And without them, I think a lot of comedians would struggle for stage time. So I always kind of have respect for people who run gigs.
yeah, it does. Oh, cheers, Tom.
That's right.
But no, he did a lot. You got Carl Wallace as well, who does a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of chaos with the comedy promotion game as well. I mean, we all hear stories about what goes on the other side as well, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable chaos though, isn't it? Because you're it's crazy when you think about it. Like literally, the job of a promoter is to book, especially at that level, open mic level. You're literally booking people you've never met, you've never heard. You don't even know what they look like until they turn up. Like it is crazy, really, to just be taking chances on people, and you have no idea whether they'll be a complete nutcase or not.
Oh yeah, I've had a couple of them. I remember one of them threatened Jamie the Souza.
Right, careful with names this time, Marvin. Careful with names this time.
Well, no, a comedian threatened Jamie de Souza.
Okay, but don't name that comedian just in case.
Yeah, I know I'm in trouble already. It is what it is. But no, it is what's been going on recently. Yeah, the Edinburgh Fringe is great, but I've heard lots of... I would like to see more of the Australian festivals, but I've heard... Because I interviewed a guy just before you on the podcast called Red Mike, and he does perform a few of the American festivals. A lot of them are the worst because you have to pay to perform, but you still might not get in.
That's insane. How does that work?
Yeah, most of the American comedy festivals are funded by people applying to get in and paying them and still maybe not getting in. But there are some really good ones, which Fedor told me about in the last episode. But yeah, That's how it is in America. I do not know why. Like in Canada, they got two main clubs. They got Absolutes and they got Yuck Yucks. And Yuck Yucks run a system where if you want to do comedy shows with them, they make money out of comedy shows you do. Yeah, if you want to perform with them, they make a percentage of what you make from doing gigs with other comedy shows.
Okay, what, like an agent?
I wouldn't say that. They just said if you just want to perform in their bills and then you're doing paid gigs, you have to give them some of your money.
Even though they're not what paid gigs from other promoters?
Yeah.
What the absolute what the F and Jeff? Like what?
Yeah, apparently so. So I interviewed someone called Simon McCoff, and he told me that he's been doing it for 40 years. He's doing very well, but they said that he says if you're not guaranteed me a living, then you don't get money from what gigs I do, and I'm free to gig for who I want. But they weren't happy about that, and it's worked out fine. But so many comedians in Canada will work for them because they are probably the biggest comedy producer within Canada.
Yeah. That's bonkers though, isn't it? Bonkers.
Could that happen to the UK if things get?
I mean, I wouldn't put anything past anything happening. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's always ways things change and different things that happen. But I'd like to think that. I mean, in the UK, we've got a stronger sense of unions actually, so maybe they'd bust that quite quickly.
There does seem to be, yeah, I'd say so. But I would like it. The one thing that I would like in comedy is to be a union.
Mm.
But there isn't really. Like the LCA isn't really one. I mean, they're trying, but they're not really set up yet. Equity are okay, but I feel that they put more work into other fields than they do into comedy.
Yeah, they're more for acting, aren't they? Really.
We're just like, what's the word for it? We're a little side note. We're a little. What would be the word for it, Tom?
No, I liked a little side note. I thought that was quite cute. I thought it could be like a name of a little cartoon character. Oh, I'm little side note. Hello, little side note. How are you today? Oh, I'm very well, thank you. That kind of thing.
It does feel like that. I'm still a part of them anyway. But,
oh yeah.
For anyone that's so you've been in the game for 10 years. You do the club circuit. You do the fringe circuit. What advice would you give for comedians in terms of doing the club circuit, gigs and clubs, doing the fringe festivals, and also if they're listening in now and they're working class and they want to be in touch with best in class, what do they do? Not this year, but for next year.
Not for this year. For best in class, you need a really good video, ideally 10 minutes. It should hopefully be well shot at a decent quality. The one thing that does let a lot of acts down is that they can send us a video and it's poor quality, it's hard to hear, or it's hard to see them. So the one major thing you can do is A, gig a lot, but B, make sure you get a decent quality video of your set where you're smashing it. That's simple as that. That's the one major bit of advice I would say. And in terms of advice for comedians generally, I think just try and do stuff you believe in. Like, I think the only thing that could really let a comedian down is that if they're just going through the motions. I think if you're performing material you believe in, you'll inherently sell it well, and you'll inherently, really do better on stage. So I think just try and write and perform material that you believe in, and then hopefully success will arrive.
And what about in terms of dealing with the garbage in comedy as an act, or as if you're running gigs?
There's pricks everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Not just in comedy. I mean, literally, there's pricks in all of society. Whether you're working a part-time job, whether you're in sixth form, whether you're at college or at uni. Do you know what I mean? And I think generally, the best advice that I give to people is to try and shrug it off. Try and not let it bother you too much, because there's loads of people out there who might have an issue with you, but more often than not, it's their issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I just generally kind of feel like if you focus on your own self, focus on working on yourself, and then hopefully you'll be all right.
Okay. And for anyone that's listening right now, so you're going to Edinburgh this year, like tell them about your show, and also how do they find out about you if they want to find your work or follow you?
I am going to Edinburgh with my show. It is a work in progress show. It's kind of a show about rap music and comedy, and kind of being a very weird, awkward white guy who really liked 50 Cent. So it's kind of exploring that. It's called Destroy Capitalism or Die Trying, which I like as a title. It's at Hoots, actually. We mentioned them earlier. It's at Hoots. And you can find all the links to that and anything else on either my website, which is tommayhew.co.uk, or there's a link tree on Instagram or Facebook, or just Google Tom Mayhew edfringe 26 and you can probably find it that way.
All right. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode.
Thank you for having me, Marvin.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. It was also a bit like a catch up.
It was lovely. It was really nice.
But yeah, you know where to go. We got Sam Diplock Lee, who is a Brazilian black belt instructor, coming up next. We got who else? We got a sitcom writer coming up next. We also, who knows what's gonna come up next? But I think I'm gonna talk about. I think this month will be about sitcom and writers, but the month after that, I think I want to talk about disabilities. I want to talk about different cultures, stuff like that. But yeah, see you guys soon.
Don Biswas would be good for that.
Yeah,